Alright, welcome back. This is interesting. This will be the first time that I use the editing software to record a voiceover over top of the live video. I'm chuckling at Briggle trying to bite his brother.
You biting your brother, big guy. Go bring your stick. Smash the nick out of my hand.
We're out playing with the boys first thing in the morning, the beginning of this weekend.
Boys, take a break.
A beautiful spring weekend in March. It's been warm enough that we could get Rocket's pool back out and fill it, and you can see he's already been swimming first thing this morning. I'm going to stitch together various video clips of me doing the work. And what work? So this video is dedicated to the re-engineering, I don't know if you'd call it that, the revamping of the upper loop to put a crossover in. So in between playing with the boys and tossing their stick and their frisbee, I'm on my way to the garage to grab a couple pieces of curved track to compare to the various pieces in the loop. I use a 20-foot diameter entrance to a 14-foot diameter curve, and then another 20-foot diameter exiting the curve to where it goes over the bridge. And I'm going to disappear into the garage for what seems like forever to the boys. So when they lose patience, they just invite themselves right in the garage with me. If you notice, and I'll do a call out here, the tracks that feed the upper loop come from down by the corner, from downtown, and one comes uphill, loops around the upper loop over the bridge, and then back downhill parallel to the other one. So this first part, I'm looking at how to disassemble the track, remove it from the stringers, and how to loosen those stringers and rearrange it to give me a rough estimate, a rough fit, a rough guess of how well this is going to fit, how well it's going to work. So I grabbed a couple of 20-foot diameter sections. These are Aristocraft track sections. So each one is roughly a 1/16 of a circle, or basically 22.5 degrees. So what I'm doing here is trying to test fit to see if I can jog over from that inside track to where the outside track enters the upper loop, and just to, try and test fit. So that will determine how much spacing I need, how much lead I need before I cross under. So before I can cross under, I need to remove some track and remove the fasteners that are holding the stringers. Rocket does a slow-mo snatch it out of the air catch. The idea is to push the grade down to about level instead of raising up at a 1% grade. So I need to remove the track and then remove the fasteners that hold the stringer to the posts. These are all 1¼ inch PVC pipe. So the stringers will just slide down, up and down on the posts, if you will. And then when you get it where you need it, you drive the post into the proper height. And we'll get there in just a bit. So here I'm removing track from the other leg of the upper loop to enable me to release this stringer from the uphill segment on the outside. and it'll tie in with that curved section there in the background. That curved segment connects to the bridge and used to be connected to the inside leg that was coming up grade to the bridge. Or should I say the bridge side of the upper loop. So one last piece of 2-foot section here to give me access to the spline join between the stringers. Starting at the far end, I'm about to remove this stringer by removing the fasteners that hold the tongue of the previous stringer in a clevis arrangement of the next stringer. Then all that's left is to remove the fasteners that hold that stringer to the post. And now we move to the other end, release the few fasteners here, and wait for it. Alright, we'll get to it. One more, and there goes the block. We have arrived at the goal, and that's to start lowering this end of the upper loop. It will meet with that lower inside section we were working on earlier. And this last fastener, and there we go, slide it down. This post can be removed altogether. We won't need it because this section of stringer will be replaced by a curved section, and that should swerve over towards where the dogs are now and under the new curve into the bridge and then back around to that inside leg, if all goes as planned. Speaking of planning, I'm looking at what it's going to take to maintain a level grade up to, I don't know if you can tell, the blocks. One's a standard concrete block 8 by 8 by 16, and on top of that's a 4 by 8 by 16. So that combination is roughly 12 inches, 30 centimeters. It's a little bit shy of that, but I'm using that for now to hold everything at a certain height that I know I need to cross over the lower loop there in the bottom center foreground. So this is all an exercise in what if. Trying to figure out what will fit, what level I need for the stringer, what clearance I need on top of the track, and then what clearance I need on top of that for the curved leg that'll go over that to the bridge. It'll all become clear soon. Gratuitous rocket snatch and grab slow-mo. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Heckle and Jackal. As promised, me pounding in the posts.
Well, that looks a little better.
Not really exciting, but this is an easy way to adjust the level and the grade of the track and the stringers all at once. I think you get the idea. About another 2-3 dozen smacks and everything is good. That was then the beginning of March. This is now the end of March. And in between, I started a new job. That's kept me busy. If you look closely on the left, you'll see the sagging stringers. Most of this work was done yesterday, and I'm just now getting pictures of it. I learned that of all those hours of video footage I caught, I've only used minutes of them in this video. This is a better view of the lowered stringer height. The posts are protruding and they need adjusted like we did previously. Unfortunately, some of them are sitting directly on the tree root and will need cut. They can't be pounded in. The driving factor of the height is where the stringer rests on the tunnel over the lower loop track. The blocks are an easy reference for heights and clearances. Here's a better view that shows the placement of everything and the relationship between the old and the new. The plan was to come straight off the approach across the opening of the tunnel. Using the 8-foot stringer as a guide, it's obvious that there needs to be some kind of curvature added, some kind of sweep, while avoiding the support posts for the curved section to the bridge. Obviously a lot of work left to do, including replacing 5 if not 6 rotted stringers. But we'll cover that in a separate video. Fast forward to the middle of April.
Alright, the story so far. You can see I've got the outside loop that used to connect over here to the upper loop, going around, well, if I show you going around and then shooting out towards where the other end of the bridge will be. Sorry for the shaking. And then you can see the other end here, kind of snaking around. I'm going to sneak around under the bridge and then over here, and then curve back to meet that somehow. And that's what we're figuring out now. Doing a piece of track at a time. Placing it, seeing what fits, what looks good.
With the approaching grade level, it's time to start test fitting, see what we have room for. So what I'm doing here is throwing a couple of concrete blocks here and there and trying to position them where they can hold up sections of track while I lay them in place and eyeball things just to see if it's going to work. I already have a piece of 20-foot diameter kicking it out in that direction, so I'm placing one to kick it back parallel with the original path. Next, a short straight section to bridge the lower loop, and enough of a straight section to separate the two 20-foot curves.
That's one. That's two. Let's connect this here.
I'm connecting all these sections together so that as I reposition and pull and move and tug, they all stay together. I think you get the idea, so I'm going to fast forward a bit here.
Alright, I don't know if you can see down through there or not how it snakes through the trees and under what'll be a new bridge here to cross that and that. And this section will have a bridge to cross the track underneath. But then we curve back around to try and hit that stringer. So now, I had to change out that 3-footer for a 2-footer way on back to get this to kind of wedge in here, fit. Now, let's see.
At this point, I'd have to say close enough.
Alright, so I'll give you a view here of where we've been working. Starting there, all the way around there.
Stringer time. Generally, I'd use one of the templates to lay these all out, but this is more of an ad hoc build to fit. You'll see here just how long it takes me to put together one block or one joint, if you will. First I have to undo this joiner or this block. Essentially this is splined road bed, and each one of these slats is a 1/4 inch wide, ripped one at a time from a 2x4, so it's 1.5 tall by 1/4 wide by 8 foot long, and they get assembled using a spacer block that's the same width as the 1.25 inch PVC posts, roughly 1 5/8 inches. Time to grab some new spacer blocks. You can see that the slats are separated now. What I'm trying to do is to form them or shape them to the rough fit of the 20-foot diameter curved section here. Doing it manually like this, I have to use clamps to hold the slats together, not only against the block but up and down, so that they're not staggered, they're all even in height. I'll drill a pilot hole here and then run a deck screw in to hold everything together, and then repeat it for the other side. I think you can see why it takes so long to do it this way. The templates hold everything in place. All you have to do is clamp it to hold the slats together while you drill all the pilot holes and then wind in all the screws. It's more of an assembly line process. This is not. I'm going to fast forward again. This video crams pretty much an entire weekend's worth of work into a single video, and I'm probably going to have to make it a multi-part. There's just a lot going on here to change this from basically the other end of a folded dog bone into a more complex structure.
Yeah, not bad. Alright.
So when I say this isn't an assembly line process, you can see that every block needs clamped in place, a pilot hole drilled, a screw wound in, and this is on both sides, and every 8 inches. Thankfully, it only took me a few blocks to realize I needed some shade. You can see the base of the umbrella there, and I've just put the umbrella in and deployed it.
Oh yeah, that'll work.
So to give you an idea, it took 2 hours to get this much done. Fast forwarded another 2 hours and I'm almost done with this stringer. You can see how I've had to bend it around a pipe and a stake. Or should I say I need to stake it in place to hold it while I drill the pilot hole. Well, place the block, then drill the pilot hole, and wind in the screws. 4 hours to do one stringer, and at this point I have another stringer to build. Thankfully I can just use the templates and do half a 20-foot diameter curve and the other half a 4-foot long straight section, and that will meet then with the existing stringer for the upper loop, which I'll have to disassemble and reassemble as a 20-foot diameter curve to meet the other end of the stringer I've yet to make. This alone took pretty much all day to get to this point. It's well after 6 o'clock. Fast forward to the next day and you can see that we're starting out with the stringer, and we need to put this second stringer in here, and there it is. If you look closely, you'll notice that I've only assembled the right half of the stringer. That's because I used the 20-foot diameter template to assemble it. I left this other end free so that I could custom fit it as needed. You also may have noticed that the ends are uneven and broken along the knots there. They'll be good enough until we disassemble the upper loop stringer and try and match it to this one. You can see that upper loop stringer there on the far left in the bottom. It will need disassembled and refit to the 20-foot diameter curve there, then laced together with this new one. Here's a better view of that, and my makeshift bucket seat and the snazzy cushion. Here's the finished product. You can see I've put together the straight end of this. You can also see that I've reworked the upper loop stringer, now connected with the new stringer. Here's a better view of how streamlined this all is and how nice and sweeping the curves are going into the upper loop now. I should mention that none of the track is fastened down yet, at least none of the new track. That and the bridge will have to wait until next weekend. Here's a wider shot, but I think you can see we're not running trains this weekend, so add one more weekend. There's still a lot left to do, like getting support pipes in place and getting the stringers in the proper position. You can see here the two pipes laying there. And if you look closely, you can see that I've sunken the far leg of the lower loop into the ground and more flush with the grass there. That gave me an extra 1.5 inches of clearance. Then I used the rails as a reference for height. Adding a 3/4 inch chunk of wood with the concrete block gave me the 8.5 clearance I needed above to rest the stringer on. That let me drive the posts in place and fasten the track. This is the reference I needed to set the slope or the grade on the upper loop to come back around to the bridge that crosses this section. It's taken me nearly all day to get to this point, and the work's just started. Most of that time was spent slicing through the turf to set the stringers lower, digging out all the dirt and leaves and whatever was in the way. Well, 1% grade didn't do it. I'm working on 1.5% now, and I may end up with a 2% grade. Guess we'll see. Goes up at 1.5% grade to where you can step over it. I don't know if you can see how low it is compared to the fence now, but that fence used to come in right underneath the stringer. Now it's just barely at the stringer. Tomorrow we put the track down. Hopefully we can run trains. Bring you back down. And like magic, tomorrow's here. It's already 2 in the afternoon. The track for the upper loop is fastened, and we're working on the approach to the bridge for the other end of the upper loop. I beefed up the gaps between the stringers with some longer joiners. With the grades all set, all that remains to do is to put the bridge back in there. But there's one problem. There's only one approach trestle. I'll have to totally rebuild the one the dogs destroyed for the other end. Fast forward 3 hours later and I'm assembling that approach trestle, adding girts. What's a girt? Those horizontal members in the middle are called girts, and they hold the trestle bents together. Here's a close-up. I pre-drill for the brass escutcheon pins and then use the pliers to actually drive them or press them into the bent legs. All that remains after that is to add the cross bracing. And as much as I wanted to rebuild this bridge, I wanted to run trains more. It's already 6 o'clock and I still have to cut a piece of track to fit there to the left for a bridge I've yet to build. But that's not the worst of it. I had forgotten that the dogs had totally destroyed this leg of the Y that needed totally rebuilt as well. Add an hour and a half to fix that, and we're losing daylight. Alright, running and smoking. Finally running trains. This is one of the new GP38s that I bought. Keep an eye out for the unboxing video. Well, wanted to have them running last weekend, but at least I got them running this weekend. And there's what the triple decker looks like. Took the part of the fence out. I think I'll go take the rest of it out now. Here it comes. I don't know if you can see the smoke or not. I almost thought this would be a two-parter, but until next time, see you then. Thanks for watching.